Okay, so welcome to the CWPCA Virtual Safety Group webinar. And today's topic that we're going to be discussing is the safety standard for loading docks. My name is Brian Izard, and I'll be doing the presentations today. So go through the agenda. Let me just talk briefly about what the safety group is all about. So the safety group we started about 2 years ago, and it is designed to develop best practices and safety standards around industry-specific processes that need to be addressed. We did a survey. These are all areas that our members want to address, and we're covering them off at about 5 a year. I want to remind everybody that these responsibilities that we'll be outlining are your legal responsibilities under the provincial occupational health and safety legislation for each province. So it's important that you understand that this is a legal responsibility to undertake these tasks as we've outlined them. Today we'll be talking about general training as opposed to workplace-specific training. But the training documents that we prepared, as well as the standard, can all be modified for your unique and particular workplace. So the idea is that these are general in nature and give you an overview of how things should be done in any workplace across Canada. However, our strong recommendation is that you customize them, use photographs particular to your facility, and the training documents and the safety standard are designed so that you can do that. Also, one thing to remember is that everybody has different ways of doing things inside their facilities, and we would encourage you to document the way you do it in your facility. A number of people have asked me, what is a safety standard? And they get confused between a safe operating procedure and a safety standard. And a safety standard is all it is a agreed upon way of doing something. And let's look at the safety standard that we developed here. So I'm going to bring this up. Okay, so where does this come from? Well, this is an actual document developed by our safety consultants, which was the Workplace Safety and Prevention Bureau in Ontario. They visited one of our facilities, so you see their loading dock there, and they developed this in consultation with a professional organization that manages safety on forklifts and loading docks. So you can be assured that it's done properly and it meets the legal standards in the province where this was developed. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes about the other provinces. But what you see is that's how a safety standard is written. And if you need to do something like that in your own facility, then you can use this as a template. But these are generally understood rules that meet the regulatory standards in any province where we operate in. That's what it looks like. Okay, just get back to the presentation. Okay. So we're going to go over the common risks associated with loading docks and some of the safe work practices that you should be engaged in when loading or unloading trailers. We want to remind you that all these documents, including the ones that have been done previously, are on the CWPCA website under the Occupational Health and Safety tab. Okay, so one of the challenges that we have in the workplace is that while we may have well-developed standards, the delivery or the implementation of it is often lacking. And so our focus over the last couple of years is to develop high-quality training documents that you can use for your people, okay? And the key thing to remember when you're delivering training is the person that's delivering it must be competent. And definition of competency is somebody that's qualified through knowledge, training, experience to organize and perform the work. So we'll take a minute here and say, well, for myself, am I competent enough to be able to deliver this training? And my qualifications are, yes, I've got a degree in occupational health and safety, 30 years of experience. I'm certified as a train-the-trainer, and I've developed these procedures and delivered them for many years, so I'm qualified. In your own workplace, you would look to somebody who has similar qualifications. Perhaps they have they've been taking some night courses, or they have a degree in occupational health and safety, but that's not necessarily the person that delivers the best training. Person who actually knows what the rules are and how to work safely. That's the person that you want to seek out and deliver that training. Across Ontario, Quebec, all of the provinces, we have some people from Alberta on the call today. One of the things that you want to remember is there's some consistent rules in all of the provinces. And those rules I'll just articulate for you. You have to provide this type of training to all workers. In the case of loading dock safety, often people think that they only have to provide it to the forklift operators who are going through the doors, but that's a mistake. Some of the people that are injured on loading docks quite often are pedestrians. Okay, so they're unfamiliar with how loading docks operate, and they walk in front of or behind the forklift, and that's how they're struck and injured. So the type of training we provided is geared to all workers. Okay, and certainly if you want to make it more specific for the forklift operators, you can certainly do so. Key thing to take away: all workers inside your facility should get this type of training. Second regulation that all employers will be looking for is that they're responsible to ensure that any barriers, warning signs, or other safeguards that are used in the work areas with vehicles and material handling equipment are there. Okay. Third is they must ensure that all vehicles are immobilized and secured before loading or unloading. And what that means is if you're loading a trailer, it's the employer's responsibility to make sure that that trailer is mobilized or locked into a position. And we're going to talk about that, but at this juncture I want to remind everybody that in general over the last 20 years most loading docks have moved to truck restraints, plates that are hydraulically moved onto the trailer decks, and trailer optics. Okay, but it's fair to say that in our industry, not everybody has that level of mechanization on their loading docks. So our procedures that we've outlined will look at some of the manual systems that are still in place in many of the facilities where our members operate. The next is that they have to ensure that the equipment involved in loading or unloading is operated and maintained as per the manufacturer's specifications, which means that if you have a dock plate and that dock plate is required to be serviced on a scheduled basis in order to ensure that it's operating at its maximum efficiency, that it be done so. The last is to ensure that the indoor and outdoor dock areas are included on a monthly workplace inspection. And what that means is that by law you're required to do an inspection of the facility and identify any physical conditions or processes that are substandard and are in need of correction or repair. So once again, it's important that the people developing your procedures should be competent persons, and I'll mention at this juncture that competency often, as a best practice, involves discussing this with members of your Joint Health and Safety Committee. Those are the people who really understand how things are done in the workplace from a practical perspective. So what we're providing you are effective training tools, and they consist of kind of three key assets. One is a safety standard or safe work practice, which I've mentioned is a written method that outlines how the tasks are to be done. They're always done, in my experience, with members of your Joint Health and Safety Committee. In Quebec, you call this l'équipe secure. The training presentation that you'll see in a few minutes is customized and uses extensive use of visual representation. And in the training that I've delivered, I found that just pure written procedures isn't good enough to properly explain how things are to be done in the workforce. The reasons for that are, some adult learners don't respond well to just purely the written word. Others, we have workforces where English is not always understood. So the training documents that we've provided use visual representation extensively. Now, I've pulled these from my own inventory of photos, but I would strongly encourage you to use your own facility pictures to help better describe your processes inside your plants. And then the last but not least are your training records. So on the website, we've shown how to establish a training record. Anytime somebody comes in from a regulatory agency, such as the CSST, Ministry of Labor, they're going to want to see those training records. And you want to make sure that the training records clearly articulate who got trained, the names are legible, the dates, source content, who the trainer was. The best practices, you do refresher training, especially on loading docks, are done every 18 months. Okay, so what are some of the major risk factors involved in a loading dock? So I'm giving you a couple here. These are the primary ones, where a lift truck has driven off a loading dock. In this case, this is a very rough looking operation, but might be very similar to what you'd find in a pallet yard, where somebody drove right off the dock. In this particular case, it was a fatality. The second one is the truck and trailer may leave the dock prematurely. So this is a case that I personally was involved in an investigation, where the trailer pulled out while the forklift was still on it, and it fell between the dock and the trailer. There may be trailer creep away from the dock, so that might happen during inclement weather, but also it would involve a forklift coming off the dock or falling between the trailer and the dock. The trailer may tip or fall. Usually that's due to the legs on a drop trailer giving away, or the trailer itself in poor condition collapses when a 5,000-pound machine goes on top of it, and here's a photo of it. Or you simply put, you may have the forklift go right through the floor of the trailer. So we'll talk about how to prevent these type of accidents and control procedures involved in them. So it's helpful to go over some of the definitions, because when we're talking to new employees, they especially if they're not working in that area, they may not be familiar with some of the terminology. But loading dock is a recessed bay where trucks are loaded or unloaded. Trailer creep, what that means is the trailer pulls away. Usually that happens while those forklifts are going on and off the trailer, and it just slowly moves away or slips off the loading area, and that could be due to wet or inclement weather, snow, ice buildup. So that's something to be aware of. Wheel chocks. There's many different types of wheel chocks. Two primary types are a rubberized one and a metal one. In my experience, the metal ones are the ones that bite in the winter time where there's ice on the loading platform, and they're the best suited for placement. But you know, I've seen rubber work as well, but certainly my opinion is that the steel-shaped ones are much better. And of course, a dock leveler, which you see in that bottom left-hand corner, that's what's used to bridge the gap between the edge of your building and the trailer. And so you see what happens is that lip of the dock leveler goes onto the trailer and then forms a bridge. Now there's as many different types of dock levelers as there are types of pallets and containers. There's different sizes, there's different lengths, there's different weight capacities. And that's one of the things to remember about loading docks, is that there's a great variety of designs and functionality when it comes to these types of equipment. So it's a good idea to use the specifics in your facility when designing these type of procedures. So the simple way we do safe work practices are around ensuring that you these are things you do and these are things you don't do. And we've developed this based on a lot of experience about how to properly communicate to workers what they should and shouldn't be doing. So these are a list of things they should be doing before they engage in any loading or unloading of a trailer. So first of all, you want to make sure adequate lighting is available on the dock, and that ensures that you can inspect the trailer deck and also that you prevent slips and falls. It's surprising how many people slip inside or at the entrance of a trailer, and that's often because during inclement weather you get ice or water buildup over that lip of the trailer, and the seals often don't function as well as you'd like them to, and that's where people are at risk. Second thing is you want to make sure there's nobody inside the trailer during loading or unloading. And that may sound, self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised how many people allow workers to either go in and inspect the load or to assist the forklift operator, for example, to restack pallets, or to help them position loads when they're being laid on trailer. My experience, that's where people get hurt. It's a confined area, so the rule is nobody should be inside that trailer while a forklift is loading or unloading. A good best practice is to make sure doors are numbered both on the inside and the outside. That helps people understand where they should position their trailers and what trailers to work on. You should ensure that there's signage posted for all truck drivers. In my experience, I would insist that the engines be shut off and the brakes set, so there's no chance that you could have improper pullout. The wheels should be chalked. Usually they're chalked behind the second axle. We'll show you a picture of that in a few minutes. This is important, that access to the dock area be restricted. Now you see a picture of a kind of a cage area. That's certainly costs some money, but you can have a driver's lounge or you can have a barrier. The key thing is that you don't want the drivers walking on or off the loading area. One of the most serious accidents I had to investigate was where a driver wanted to stand by the trailer as it was being loaded and stood right in the middle of the dock plate when the forklift was backing up, and then backed into him and fractured his hip. So controlled access, the best practice is the drivers not be allowed on the dock unless it's a straight truck and they're using the hand truck to load the straight truck, and for that you'd need a separate policy for. You want to make sure that if you've got a drop trailer that you use a pallet jack, and in this position, or in this shot here, this is important to understand that there's no trailer apron, okay, a concrete apron where the dolly wheels are dropped to. This is just regular pavement. So I'd strongly urge somebody that if they're using drop trailers is to pin that nose of the trailer. And that helps prevent the trailer from tipping over as you put on the forklift and you're loading it. The alternative is to make sure that the trailers are always hooked to the power equipment while loading. That would be, your alternative here. The other thing to remember is to make sure that the engines are shut off on the trucks that are delivering the trailers. You can have carbon monoxide buildup, and if they say that they need to keep the engines running, so I would just insist that no, we want the engines shut off. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but some of the companies that I'm dealing with these days insist that the keys be put on a pegboard, so there's no risk whatsoever of the tractor pulling the trailer out. Some people are using manual dock plates, and you're certainly allowed to do that, and many facilities still have manual dock plates. The important thing to understand about dock plates is that you want to have a good process in place to make sure that they're stable and that they're not going to slip off from the lip of the trailer as you go over it with the forklift. Okay. And then the next point here is an important one, but often ignored by forklift drivers, which is that any trailer that enters into your facility where you can see any bit of sunlight coming up through floor cracks, or there's separation between the wall and the floor of the trailer, or they have steel or plywood patches, I would reject them. And that's an important thing to get forklift operators to understand, that they have the right that if they feel the trailer is unsafe or won't support the weight of the forklift, that they should bring that to their supervisor and the trailer be pulled out. And that's a key point in trying to avoid any potential accidents while on the trailer. Encourage them that they don't feel the trailer safe. Ask them to leave and have it replaced. Make sure they don't bring that rejected trailer back into the facility. Next thing to do is, so many facilities these days are equipped with what we call a trailer restraint. There's many different types, but essentially they all work off one basic premise, which is the restraint comes up, in French it's called a crochet, or it's a hook that locks to the ICC bar. So that's one of the ways of isolating the equipment. The second is that you can place wheel chocks, and you see that you see where that steel wheel chock is in the second picture. It's put behind the second tandem axle. That's where you put them, okay? And there's a reason for that. It's because it's much harder to pull over that, okay? If a driver's leaving the facility. And people often ask me, well, whose job is it to insert those wheel chocks? Is it the forklift operator or the truck driver? And my experience, you insist that it's a truck driver's responsibility to insert them, but it's a forklift operator's job to verify that the wheels have been chocked. Another method of isolating it is to apply a glad hand lock to the trailer to lock the brake lines, or to request that the driver surrender the keys to the loader unloader and put it on a pegboard. So these are all these are four methods that you can use to isolate the equipment at your loading dock to make sure you don't get premature pullout. Another best practice that you want to engage in is control of pedestrians. So I mentioned controlling truck drivers, okay, making sure they don't access the loading docks. Another area of concern is your own employees who are potentially accessing the loading docks. So one of the ways that you prevent injury from your own employees is to have designated walk areas where you train your employees that they stay within, in this case, the yellow lines, and the forklift operators are similarly told that they do not enter those work areas. So that's what we call pedestrian safety walk zones. Something that's a little bit better than that is to put physical barriers. So you see in the second picture, where you put a barrier that protects workers, especially if you got a lot of worker activity in that forklift zone. And these aren't particularly expensive, but they're effective in preventing a forklift from striking a pedestrian. And about 20–25% of the forklift accidents that occur that I'm familiar with, which involve what they call a major crush industry, involve the forklift hitting a pedestrian. So that's why this type of practice is important in the workplace. The next procedure that you'd want to ensure is to make sure that the dock equipment is maintained during to the manufacturer's recommendations. So, the key thing here that you want to remember is the dock levelers are just like a forklift in terms of they need scheduled maintenance. And here you see somebody that's doing it properly with a safety device that locks out the dock plate. These are, hydraulically and electrically controlled devices, and they need to be maintained on a scheduled basis. As an employer, you're responsible to make sure the dock plates are working properly, as are the doors, the restraints, and any signal lights. Also, you want to make sure the angle of the dock into the air ride trailers are not too steep, because if it is, sometimes you can get spinning or skidding inside the trailers. And similarly, if you got an air ride trailer, you want to instruct the driver to drop it and bring down the angle so that the dock leveler doesn't have a high rate of climb. The thing to remember is that anybody working on a dock leveler or loading dock must wear steel toed shoes and non-slip footwear. One thing I want to point out is in that picture, you'll see what they call a toe guard, which is a flange on the edge that, see if I can point to it right there. Okay. So that protects a toe from getting caught as the plate comes down. That's what they call a pinch point. You want to make sure that your dock plates have that. Not all of them do. Because if one of your operators ever gets his foot caught between the descending dock plate and the edge, he'll quite likely either lose his toes or certainly he'll fracture his foot. So for that reason, safety footwear is absolutely mandatory on a loading dock. Now there's a couple of things that you want to understand that you shouldn't be doing before you're loading a trailer, and I'll give you two examples. And when I'm training people, I like to have that big red circle in there because that says don't do this. But these are examples of things you shouldn't be doing while you're preparing to load or unload a trailer. And in the first picture, you're seeing a worker inside the trailer trying to guide the forklift operator as he comes in. Bad practice. Reason for it is if anything goes wrong as he goes over the dock plate or he loses control of that forklift, that worker is going to be severely injured, right? He should never be in that close proximity to that piece of wood packaging being loaded onto the trailer. The second picture shows another issue, and every year we hear about this where somebody is injured while a truck is backing up. And unfortunately, we had a situation where in our own industry this year where one of our members had an operator who was struck in a similar fashion in the yard, and it was a fatality. And so the reminder here is that under no conditions should there be any worker whatsoever guiding a truck into a truck bay. under no conditions should that little yellow fella signifies the worker. Under no conditions should a worker be in front or between a truck that's backing up. Okay, so during the unloading, okay, there's a couple of practices that you want to pay particular attention to. Okay, so when you're, the first thing is that when, often when you get a trailer, whether it can be, could be pallets, could be wood packaging, is that you can't pick the load up because it maybe has shifted while in transit. So key thing to explain to workers is that if they have to go inside the trailer, okay, and reposition something so it can be properly picked up, that they have to be able to do that safely. So they would park the forklift off the dock plate, isolate it, take the keys out of it, then they'd go in and they'd properly lift maybe a couple falling over pallets, okay, but they use proper lifting techniques, which is straight back, legs bent, okay, and obviously if the weight is a little bit too much for them, that they get somebody to help them do that. It's surprising the number of people that get injured trying to reposition, product or pallets that have been that have shifted in transit inside the trailer. Another is that you make sure that under no conditions do employees jump off the docks, and for any reason whatsoever. It could be to clean garbage out of the dock bays or whatever. That's a recipe for somebody really getting injured. So in order to do that, the employer must ensure that there's proper egress. So you have proper stairwell and access to a door so that they don't have to jump off the docks. Another thing to do while you're unloading trailers is that you want to make sure that you raise your forks upwards, okay, while you're entering the going over the dock leveler, so that they don't catch the raised lip of the dock leveler or the frame of the dock leveler when you're entering the trailer and going over the dock leveler. You also want to ask any operators that are going onto the trailer to make sure the trailer's square and to make sure that the dock plate fits properly onto the trailer. And something that is hard for some forklift operators to understand, but when they go over those dock plates, they have to slow down. Okay, I know many of them like to really, it's the speed at which they unload or load the trailer, but certainly when you're going over that dock plate, there's no reason, or inside a trailer for that matter, no reason whatsoever. You would never in any condition be over 5 kilometers an hour. You just no reason whatsoever. You slow right down, because on a dock plate with that steel, and often it's worn tread, very easily you can slip on the dock plate. So here's an example of something you don't do while you're loading trailers. Here you've got a fellow that has his vision impaired. He can't see either side of the trailer, and he can't see above the trailer, or see above his unit load. So in this case, what he should have is a spotter, or somebody that's standing well away with a safety vest directing him. But in this case, you don't see anybody, and this fella runs a high risk of either knocking over that upper unit load, or striking the side of the unit load against the side of the trailer. So, in cases like this, which are often unique, you should have a spotter that helps the forklift operator load the trailer. So after a safe work practice that's conducted after loading is that you install a physical barrier at the edge of the dock. And the reason for that is that you want something positioned that alerts the driver that there's no trailer in that door, or that the trailer's, you're finished work on it. So in many cases that can be a, you can pull a door down, okay, or you can, some facilities are equipped with barriers like you see, but this is just an extra safety step, okay, and these type of devices can be made inside your operation or purchased that says this trailer is out of service, okay, and you shouldn't be going on it. Now, that's a technique that helps facilitate or prevents accidents from occurring on the dock plate. It's a good best practice that I've used, okay. And the other is that you don't want to store anything on the dock plates that restrict vision for any pedestrians or forklifts that operators that may be in the area. The last part of the training session involves something that, in my experience, I found that many people or many trainers or managers fail to undertake, and that's a competency assessment. So the competency assessment that we've developed here is very simple in nature. It's 6 simple questions, okay, 2 practical, 2 can be, or 4 that can be described, but 2 of them where you get the individual right out onto the workplace and ask them in a direct manner, show me how to chalk the wheels. And in my experience, competency assessments are fundamental for 2 reasons. Number 1, they demonstrate to the trainer whether or not the product or the knowledge has been adequately transferred to the trainee. So trainers often assume that just because they've talked and they've had somebody in the room, the employee is properly trained. The reality is that without a competency assessment, you have no means of knowing whether or not he understood what you were saying and that he fully absorbed it. So the first part of the competency assessment is that you're asking on course content, did you understand it? And if he didn't understand it and he got the message wrong, then you go over and the training section that's relevant to what he misunderstood and get it right before you consider him properly trained. The second part of a competency assessment is it's a good practice to have these type of documents in place to demonstrate to a regulatory authority that the individuals were properly trained. In my personal experience, I've probably investigated 30 accidents around a shipping area where we've had administrative labor or CSST or somebody like that coming in and doing an investigation. And unless you can prove both that they took the training and that they understood the training, you're going to get written up for any type of infraction that's observed in the workplace. So competency assessments should be done for every piece of training done in the workplace. And that's attached to your record of training and kept on file with the actual training document. So that's the training session. So just a quick review. Okay. This is a general document used to train all workers. Okay. It can be used to train your forklift operators. Okay. But it needs, if you want a customized workplace specific training document, then you would take photos of your dock levelers, your doors, the equipment that you use in your facility, and customize this document to your facility. And you can do that by pulling it off the CWPCA website. It's in a Word document that can be accessed by yourself. It's designed as a template. Okay. And the second thing is that you want to understand that there are legal requirements for employers, and I outlined those at the start of the training session. all employees need to receive this type of training, okay, so they understand what they're dealing with in terms of the loading docks. Even those fellas that aren't particularly involved in it, they need to understand specifically that the area of the loading dock is a restricted area, and they shouldn't be walking in that area. And then the third issue is that we talked about what they should and shouldn't do in terms of what are the processes in your particular facility. So it's a simple document that can be customized to your own facility, okay, that includes both the standard and the training procedures. And at this juncture, I'd like to stop, take a few minutes, and ask if there's any questions. One thing I'd mention is that if anybody wants it translated into French, I'd be more than willing to do that. That's not an issue from a cost perspective. But if somebody would like that done, just maybe send me an email, brian.izard@canadianpallets.com. But I'm open to any questions that somebody might have. Any questions? No? That's all right. Okay, so so once again, if you want to get a copy of this, it's loaded onto our website. You can pull it down. If you need some help with that, you can talk to myself or my colleague Stephanie Poirier. If you have any other specific questions with respect to this, you can give me a call at the association. My extension is 202. If you want additional information on some of the other procedures that we've that are in our library, the webinars are available. Similar talk to what I've just done. We've done some on nail gun usage, lockout, tagout, equipment guarding. If you have some questions about those, feel free to give me a call. Otherwise, that's our presentation for today, and we'll be having another one in about a month's time. Thank you very much.